The wound on Rebecca Riley's forearm looked like something from a nightmare, with angry red streaks branching upward past her elbow like the roots of some poisonous tree. And she knew with absolute certainty that if someone did not help her soon, she would die alone in this ramshackle trading post at the edge of the Texas wilderness. It was August 1876, and the heat pressed down on the rough wooden structure like a heavy hand, making the air inside thick and suffocating. Rebecca had arrived at the trading post 3 days earlier with a small wagon train heading west from Austin, Texas, but a foolish accident with a rusty nail while unloading supplies had changed everything. At first, the wound had seemed insignificant, just a small puncture in her forearm that bled a little and stung. She had wrapped it in clean cloth and thought nothing more of it. But by the second day, the skin around the wound had turned hot and red. By the third day, the redness had spread and fever had taken hold of her body. The wagon train could not wait. They had schedules to keep, and she had no family with them, just a paid passage west to start a new life away from the memories of Austin. So they had left her at the trading post with a few coins and empty promises to send help if they found any. The trading post owner, a grizzled old man named Henry, had done what he could, but his remedies of tobacco poultices and whiskey had done nothing to stop the infection. Rebecca lay on a cot in the back room, her dark auburn hair matted with sweat, her green eyes glassy with fever. She was 22 years old, and she had survived so much already in her short life. Her parents had died of cholera when she was 17. She had worked as a seamstress in Austin for 5 years, saving every penny to start fresh somewhere new. And now, this, a stupid nail, was going to be what killed her. "Miss Riley," Henry said, standing in the doorway wringing his weathered hands. "I sent word to Austin for a doctor, but that is 3 days of hard riding. I do not know if help will come in time." Rebecca tried to speak, but her throat was too dry. She managed a small nod. The red streaks had reached past her elbow now, climbing toward her shoulder. She could feel the poison spreading through her body with each heartbeat, a dark tide she could not stop. Henry disappeared, and Rebecca closed her eyes. She thought about her parents, about the life she had hoped to build. She thought about dying in this miserable place, alone and forgotten. Tears leaked from the corners of her eyes. She did not know how much time had passed when she heard the thunder of hoofbeats outside, followed by heavy footsteps on the wooden porch. A deep voice rumbled through the thin walls. "Henry, what is this about a woman with blood poisoning?" "Nathan Dalton." "Thank God," Henry said. "She is in the back. The infection is bad, real bad, spreading fast." The door to the back room swung open, and Rebecca forced her eyes to focus on the man who filled the doorway. He was massive, well over 6 feet tall, with shoulders so broad they nearly brushed the frame. His hair was dark brown and hung past his collar, and his face was weathered and tanned from years in the sun. His arms were thick with muscle, visible beneath the rolled-up sleeves of his rough cotton shirt. He carried himself with the easy confidence of a man who had faced down bears and wolves and survived. A mountain man, Rebecca thought hazily, one of those solitary trappers who spent months in the high country. Nathan Dalton crossed the room in 3 strides and knelt beside her cot. His dark blue eyes studied her face, then moved to her arm. He unwrapped the cloth carefully, and his jaw tightened when he saw the wound. "How long since this happened?" His voice was rough but not unkind. 3 days, Rebecca whispered. "Maybe 4. I lost track." Nathan stood and turned to Henry. "There is no doctor within 3 days of here, and she does not have 3 days. The infection has spread into her blood. She needs a surgeon, someone who can cut out the infected tissue and drain the poison." "Nearest surgeon is Dr. William Carpenter in San Antonio," Henry said. "But that is 60 miles south." 65, Nathan corrected. "And through some rough country." He looked back at Rebecca. "I can get there by tomorrow evening if I ride through the night and push my horse hard. But I need you to hold on, you understand? You need to fight this." Rebecca tried to nod, but everything felt so heavy. "Why would you help me? You do not even know me." Something flickered in Nathan's eyes, something old and pained. "Let us just say I know what it is like to lose someone because help came too late. I will not let it happen again if I can stop it." He stood and pulled a knife from his belt. Rebecca's eyes widened, but Nathan just cut a long strip from the relatively clean blanket on the end of the cot. He soaked it in water from his canteen and wrapped it carefully around her arm, covering the wound. "Keep this wet and cool," he told Henry. "Give her water whenever she will take it. Do not let the fever burn too high. I will be back with the surgeon as fast as humanly possible." "Nathan, your horse," Henry started. "Thunder can make it. He is the strongest horse in 3 territories. We will make it." Nathan looked down at Rebecca one more time. In the fever haze, she thought she saw determination written across every line of his rugged face. Then he was gone, his boots pounding across the floor, and moments later she heard the thunder of hoofbeats heading south into the gathering dusk. Henry came and sat beside her. "You are in good hands now, Miss Riley. If anyone can bring back help in time, it is Nathan Dalton. That man has done things that would kill most men 3 times over. They say he killed a grizzly bear with just a knife once. Lived alone in the mountains for 5 years after his family died. Toughest man I have ever known." Rebecca wanted to ask more, wanted to understand why a mountain man would risk everything for a stranger, but the fever pulled her down into darkness. The night was long and filled with nightmares. She dreamed of red vines growing through her body, choking the life from her. She dreamed of her parents calling to her from somewhere far away. Sometimes she woke and found Henry giving her water or pressing cool cloths to her forehead. The infection continued its relentless march upward, past her shoulder now, the red streaks like accusing fingers pointing toward her heart. Meanwhile, Nathan Dalton rode through the darkness like a man possessed. Thunder, his massive black stallion, was indeed the finest horse in the territory, and the animal seemed to understand the urgency. They galloped through the night, following the rough trail south toward San Antonio. The moon rose full and bright, casting silver light across the Texas landscape. They passed through stretches of scrubland and crossed shallow creeks. Nathan's powerful frame stayed low over Thunder's neck, urging the horse onward. He thought about the woman as he rode. Rebecca Riley. Henry had told him she was traveling alone, trying to start a new life. There was something about her that had struck him when he looked into her fever-bright green eyes. A determination, a strength, even as the poison spread through her body. She reminded him of Sarah, his younger sister, who had died 7 years ago from a fever, while Nathan was away trapping in the mountains. By the time he had gotten home, it was too late. The guilt had driven him deeper into the wilderness, away from people and their inevitable pain. But he could not turn away from someone in need. Not again. They rode through the night without stopping. Thunder's breathing grew labored, and Nathan knew he was pushing the animal hard, perhaps too hard. But there was no choice. He gave the horse water when they crossed streams, but did not allow more than a minute to rest before they were racing south again. Dawn broke over the Texas hills, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Nathan's eyes burned with exhaustion, but he did not slow. They were perhaps halfway to San Antonio now. Another 6 or 7 hours if they kept this pace. He thought of Rebecca lying in that hot little room, fighting for every breath. He thought of the infection climbing toward her heart. "Come on, Thunder," he muttered. "We are not stopping until we get there." The stallion tossed his head and surged forward, as though he understood. Back at the trading post, Rebecca drifted in and out of consciousness. The fever had taken full hold now, making the world swim and distort around her. At one point she thought she saw her mother sitting beside the cot, smiling sadly. Another time she was convinced she was drowning in a river of fire. Henry did his best, but he was just a trading post owner, not a doctor. He kept her as comfortable as possible, and prayed that Nathan would return in time. By mid-afternoon, the red streaks had reached Rebecca's chest. Her breathing was shallow and rapid, her skin burned to the touch. Henry knew that she was running out of time. "Hold on, Miss Riley," he whispered. "Nathan will come through, he always does." Nathan reached San Antonio as the sun was beginning its descent toward the western horizon. Thunder was lathered with sweat and trembling with exhaustion, but they had made it. Nathan dismounted in front of the doctor's office and nearly staggered as his legs remembered what solid ground felt like. He had been in the saddle for nearly 24 hours straight. He pounded on the door. "Dr. Carpenter, I need you." A middle-aged man with graying hair and spectacles opened the door, looking startled. "Good Lord, man, what is wrong?" "Woman with blood poisoning at Henry's trading post, 65 miles north. The infection is spreading fast. She will die without surgery. I need you to come with me right now." Dr. Carpenter's eyes widened. 65 miles? I have patients here in town. I cannot just leave." Nathan grabbed the doctor by his shirt and pulled him close, his exhaustion giving way to desperation. "That woman is dying. She has hours, maybe less. You are a surgeon. You took an oath to help people, so you are coming with me, even if I have to throw you over my horse, doctor." Carpenter saw something in Nathan's eyes that convinced him this was not an idle threat. All right. Let me get my instruments and supplies. But your horse looks done in. He will never make the return journey. I will get fresh horses. Just hurry." Nathan went to the livery stable and traded Thunder plus a substantial sum of money for 2 fresh horses. He felt a pang of guilt leaving Thunder behind, but the stallion needed rest and these new horses would be faster for the return journey. He would come back for Thunder later. Dr. Carpenter emerged from his office carrying a leather bag and a smaller case of surgical instruments. Nathan helped him mount one of the horses, then swung onto the other. "We ride hard and fast," Nathan said. "No stopping except to water the horses. Can you manage that?" Dr. Carpenter, who had probably not been on a horse at full gallop in years, swallowed hard. "I will do my best." They took off north at a pace that had the doctor clinging to his saddle. Nathan pushed them hard, knowing that every minute counted. They had perhaps 4 hours of daylight left, and then they would be riding through another night. But they would make it. They had to. As they rode, Dr. Carpenter shouted questions over the thunder of hoofbeats. "Tell me about the wound, puncture from a rusty nail," Nathan called back. 3 or 4 days ago. Infection spread fast. Red streaks climbing toward her heart. "That is blood poisoning." "All right," the doctor said. "If it reaches her heart, there will be nothing I can do." "How far had it spread when you left?" "Past her elbow." Dr. Carpenter's face grew grim. "Then we are in a race against death itself." They rode through the afternoon and into the evening. The sun set in a blaze of crimson and gold, and still they rode. The moon rose again, not quite as full as the night before, but bright enough to light their way. Nathan's body screamed with exhaustion, but he ignored it. He had ridden through worse conditions, through blizzards in the mountains and across scorching deserts. He could do this. He thought about Rebecca again, about the way she had looked at him with those fever-bright eyes. There was something about her that called to him, some connection he could not name. Maybe it was just that he saw Sarah in her, or maybe it was something else, something deeper. They passed the halfway point as midnight came and went. Dr. Carpenter was suffering now, unused to such brutal riding, but he did not complain. Nathan respected that. The doctor might be soft from town living, but he had courage. "Why are you doing this?" Dr. Carpenter asked during a brief stop to water the horses. "You rode all night to find me, and now we are riding all night back. You must be exhausted. What is this woman to you?" Nathan was quiet for a long moment. "Nothing. I only saw her once, for maybe 2 minutes. But I lost someone once because I was not there when she needed help. I will not let that happen again." "You cannot save everyone," the doctor said gently. "Maybe not, but I can try to save this one." They remounted and rode on into the darkness. At the trading post, Rebecca was barely clinging to life. The infection had spread across her chest and was climbing up her neck. Her fever was so high that she was no longer conscious, just lying still and pale on the cot. Henry had given up on the wet cloths and was simply sitting beside her, holding her hand and praying. "Please, Miss Riley," he whispered, "hold on just a little longer. Nathan is coming. He will bring help." But even as he said it, Henry wondered if help would arrive in time. The sky was beginning to lighten in the east when Nathan and Dr. Carpenter finally saw the trading post in the distance. Nathan urged his exhausted horse into one final gallop, and they thundered up to the building as dawn broke over the Texas landscape. Nathan practically fell from his horse and burst through the door. "Henry, we are here." Henry appeared in the doorway to the back room, his face drawn and worried. "Thank God. She is barely hanging on, Nathan. I do not know if she will make it." Dr. Carpenter pushed past them into the room, his professional manner taking over despite his exhaustion. He set down his bags and examined Rebecca quickly, his face growing more concerned with each passing second. "The infection is very advanced," he said. "It has spread into her chest cavity. I need to operate immediately, drain the wound, and remove the infected tissue. But I must tell you, her chances are not good. She has lost a lot of blood to the poison and her body is weak." "But she has a chance?" Nathan demanded. "A small one. If I can remove enough of the infection, and if her body is strong enough to fight off what remains, she might survive." "Then do it," Nathan said, "whatever you need." Dr. Carpenter turned to Henry. "I need boiling water, clean cloths, and whiskey. Lots of whiskey. And I need you two to help hold her down. Even unconscious, she will likely thrash when I start cutting." They prepared quickly. Henry boiled water on the stove while Nathan cleared the small table and helped Dr. Carpenter lay out his instruments. The doctor washed his hands thoroughly, then doused his scalpels and forceps in whiskey. "All right," he said. "Let us bring her to the table, gently now." Nathan lifted Rebecca from the cot, cradling her against his broad chest. Even through the fever, he could feel how fragile she was. Her head lolled against his shoulder, and he found himself whispering to her. "You are going to be all right, Rebecca. You are going to make it through this. Just hold on. He laid her on the table and positioned himself at her shoulders, ready to hold her down if needed. Henry stood at her legs. Dr. Carpenter examined the original wound on her forearm, then the spreading infection. This is going to be rough, he warned. I need to cut away all the infected tissue, which means going deep. It will be painful for her even in her current state. He picked up his scalpel and began. What followed was one of the hardest hours of Nathan's life. Dr. Carpenter worked with skill and precision, cutting away the dead and infected tissue around the original wound, then making incisions along the red streaks to drain the poison. Rebecca did thrash, her body instinctively trying to escape the pain, even though she was not truly conscious. Nathan held her shoulders down gently but firmly, speaking to her in low, soothing tones the entire time. You are doing so well, Rebecca. Stay with us. Just a little longer. You are strong. I can see it in you. Do not give up now. Blood and pus drained from the wounds as Dr. Carpenter worked. The smell was terrible, but Nathan did not flinch. He had seen worse in the mountains. He kept his focus on Rebecca's face, watching for any sign that she was aware that she was still fighting. After what felt like an eternity, Dr. Carpenter stepped back and wiped his forehead with a clean cloth. That is all I can do. I have removed the infected tissue and drained as much of the poison as I could. Now we clean the wounds, bandage her, and wait. If she makes it through the next 24 hours, she has a real chance. They cleaned the wounds with boiled water and whiskey, then wrapped her arm and shoulder in clean bandages. Nathan lifted her again and carried her back to the cot, laying her down carefully. Her skin was still burning with fever, but perhaps not quite as badly as before. Or maybe that was just wishful thinking. Dr. Carpenter prepared a tonic with willow bark for the fever and managed to get some of it down Rebecca's throat. Then he sat back, exhausted. Now we wait, he said, and we hope her body is strong enough to fight off what remains of the infection. Nathan pulled a chair up beside the cot and sat down. His body ached with exhaustion, his eyes burned, and he could not remember the last time he had eaten. But he did not move. He was not leaving Rebecca's side until he knew she would survive. Henry brought him some food and water, which he accepted gratefully. Dr. Carpenter dozed in another chair, his work done for now. The morning sun streamed through the window, and the heat began to build again. Nathan sat and watched Rebecca breathe. Her chest rose and fell in shallow movements. Her face was still pale, but some of the terrible grayness had left her skin. He reached out and took her hand, careful of the bandages on her arm. You are going to make it, he told her quietly. You rode hard to get here, just like I rode hard to bring the doctor. We are both fighters, and fighters do not give up. The hours crawled by. Dr. Carpenter woke and checked on Rebecca regularly, changing her bandages and getting more tonic into her. The wounds were draining properly, which was a good sign. Her fever remained high but stable, not climbing higher. As afternoon turned to evening, Nathan finally dozed off in his chair, his hand still holding Rebecca's. He dreamed of riding through darkness, always racing towards something he could never quite reach. He woke sometime in the night to find Rebecca's green eyes open and looking at him. For a moment, he thought he was still dreaming. Then she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. You came back. Nathan sat up straight, his heart pounding. Rebecca, you are awake? You came back with the surgeon, she said. Her voice was weak, but there was clarity in her eyes that had not been there before. 2 nights, Nathan's said, a smile breaking across his face. But who is counting? Why? She asked. You do not know me. Nathan was quiet for a moment. Maybe I wanted to. Know you, I mean. Dr. Carpenter appeared in the doorway, looking pleased. Miss Riley, it is very good to see you awake. How do you feel? Like I was trampled by a horse, Rebecca said. But alive. You are indeed alive, thanks to Mr. Dalton here. I have never seen a man ride so hard for so long. He covered 65 miles in one night to fetch me. Then we rode another 65 miles back. You have him to thank for your life. Rebecca's eyes moved back to Nathan, and something passed between them in that moment, some understanding that neither could name. Thank you, she said softly. I do not know how I can ever repay you. Just get well, Nathan said. That is all the payment I need. Over the next few days, Rebecca's condition improved steadily. The infection receded, the fever broke, and color returned to her face. Dr. Carpenter stayed at the trading post to monitor her recovery, and Nathan stayed too, though he could not quite explain why even to himself. He told himself he just wanted to make sure she was truly all right, but there was more to it than that. He found himself drawn to her in ways he had not felt in years. When she was strong enough to sit up, they talked for hours. She told him about growing up in Austin, about losing her parents, about her years working as a seamstress and dreaming of something more. He told her about his life in the mountains, about trapping and hunting, about the solitude that had been both his refuge and his prison. "Why did you leave the mountains?" Rebecca asked one afternoon as they sat on the porch of the trading post. She was wrapped in a blanket despite the heat, still recovering her strength. Nathan was quiet for a long time. "I lost my family when I was 21, he finally said. "My parents and my younger sister Sarah. There was a fever and I was up in the high country checking my trap lines. By the time I got home, they were already gone. I blamed myself for not being there. So I went back to the mountains and stayed for 5 years, hardly seeing another soul." "That is a long time to be alone," Rebecca said gently. It was. But eventually, the loneliness gets worse than the grief. "I came back down about 2 years ago. Started doing odd jobs for folks, guiding hunting parties, that sort of thing. I still spend a lot of time in the wilderness, but I am not running away anymore." He looked at her. "When Henry sent word about you, it was like I was being given a chance to make up for not being there for Sarah. I could not let you die." Rebecca reached out and took his hand. Her grip was still weak, but it was there. "I am glad you did not, and I am glad you are not running away anymore." They sat together in comfortable silence, watching the sun set over the Texas hills. Dr. Carpenter declared Rebecca well enough to travel after a week. The infection was gone, and while her arm would bear scars, she had full use of it. She was thin and weak from her ordeal, but she was alive and growing stronger every day. "Where will you go now?" Nathan asked her the evening before Dr. Carpenter planned to return to San Antonio. Rebecca looked troubled. "I do not know. I spent all my savings on passage west with that wagon train. They are long gone now. I suppose I could return to Austin and try to start over there." "Is that what you want?" "No," Rebecca admitted. "I wanted to start fresh somewhere new. But I do not have the means anymore." Nathan made a decision that surprised even himself. "I have a cabin about 30 miles north of here, up in the hill country. It is not much, but it is solid and comfortable. You could come stay there while you figure out what you want to do next. I could use help with some things around the place, and you could earn enough to get back on your feet." Rebecca studied his face. "You do not have to do that. You have already done so much for me." "I know I do not have to. I want to." Nathan met her eyes. "I've been alone for a long time, Rebecca. Maybe too long, and I think maybe you have been alone too. We could help each other." Something warm kindled in Rebecca's eyes. "All right, yes, I would like that." Dr. Carpenter left the next morning after giving Rebecca final instructions for caring for her healing wounds. Nathan paid him generously for his services and arranged to pick up Thunder from San Antonio in a few weeks once the stallion had fully recovered. 3 days later, when Rebecca was strong enough to ride, they set out together for Nathan's cabin. Nathan had borrowed a gentle mare from Henry for Rebecca to ride, and he rode one of the horses he had gotten in San Antonio. They took it slow, stopping frequently to rest. Nathan was patient and attentive, making sure Rebecca was comfortable and not pushing herself too hard. The cabin, when they reached it, was more than Rebecca had expected. It sat in a small valley surrounded by rolling hills covered in oak and juniper trees. A clear stream ran nearby. The cabin itself was solidly built from logs with a stone chimney and a wide porch. Inside, it was simple but clean, with a main room that served as kitchen and living space, a separate bedroom, and a small loft above. "I built most of it myself," Nathan said, looking almost shy. "It is not fancy, but it is home." "It is beautiful," Rebecca said, and she meant it. After weeks on the trail and nearly dying in a rough trading post, the cabin felt like a sanctuary. They fell into an easy routine over the following weeks. Nathan hunted and fished and tended to the various tasks required to maintain the property. Rebecca cooked and mended and kept the cabin clean. But it was more than just a practical arrangement. They genuinely enjoyed each other's company. Nathan taught Rebecca to fish in the stream, and she taught him to make proper biscuits instead of the rock-hard things he had been eating for years. They talked for hours in the evenings, sitting on the porch and watching the stars come out. Rebecca found herself laughing more than she had in years, and Nathan found himself opening up in ways he never had with anyone before. One evening, about a month after Rebecca had arrived at the cabin, they were sitting together on the porch as usual. The air was cooling as autumn approached, bringing relief from the brutal Texas summer. Nathan had been quiet all evening, and Rebecca could sense something on his mind. "What is it?" she asked gently. Nathan was quiet for a long moment. "I have been thinking about something. About what you said when you first woke up after the surgery. You asked why I rode through the night to save you. And you said maybe you wanted to know me. Yeah. Nathan turned to look at her, and in the fading light, his eyes were intense. I did want to know you. But there is more to it than that. From the moment I saw you lying on that cot, fighting for your life, something in me just knew that you were important, that I could not let you die. I did not understand it then, but I think I am starting to now. Rebecca's heart was beating faster. What are you saying? Nathan reached out and took her hand, his rough, calloused fingers gentle against her skin. I am saying that I am falling in love with you, Rebecca Riley. Maybe I started falling the moment I met you, and I know it is fast. And I know you came here just to get back on your feet, and I do not want to pressure you into anything, but I needed you to know how I feel. Rebecca felt tears spring to her eyes, but they were good tears. Nathan, I have been falling for you too. How could I not? You rode through 2 nights to save my life. You brought me to your home. You have been nothing but kind and patient with me, and you make me laugh. And you make me feel safe, and when I think about leaving here, about going back to Austin or somewhere else, it breaks my heart because all I want is to stay here with you. Nathan's face broke into a smile, and he pulled her close, wrapping his powerful arms around her. Rebecca leaned into his embrace, feeling the solid warmth of his body, the steady beat of his heart. For the first time since her parents died, she felt like she had found home. Stay then, Nathan murmured into her hair. Stay with me. Not as someone working for room and board, but as my partner, my love. Stay and build a life with me. Rebecca pulled back just enough to look up at him. Yes, I will stay. Nathan kissed her then, and it was gentle and sweet and full of promise. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. I never thought I would find this again, Nathan said. After I lost my family, I thought I was meant to be alone. But then you came into my life, and everything changed. You saved my life, Rebecca said, and now you are giving me a new one. How did I get so lucky? I think we both got lucky, Nathan said. As autumn deepened into winter, their love grew stronger. Nathan proposed properly one evening in November, getting down on one knee on the cabin porch and offering her a simple gold ring that had belonged to his grandmother. Rebecca said yes through happy tears, and they married in a small ceremony at the church in Austin a month later, with Henry and a few of Nathan's friends in attendance. Rebecca wrote to her old friends from her seamstress days, telling them about her incredible journey from near death to finding love in the Texas Hill Country. Some wrote back with congratulations and amazement. Others never replied, and Rebecca decided that was fine. She had a new life now. The winter was cold but beautiful. Snow fell on the cabin and the surrounding hills, turning everything white and peaceful. Nathan taught Rebecca to track animals through the snow and to identify different trees and plants even in winter. Rebecca continued to make the cabin a home, sewing curtains and quilts, learning to bake bread in the cast-iron oven. They talked about the future often. Nathan wanted to expand his property, maybe start raising cattle. Rebecca wanted to eventually open a small business in town, perhaps a seamstress shop or a general store, but those were dreams for later. For now, they were content just being together. Spring came, and with it, the news that Rebecca was pregnant. She told Nathan one morning over breakfast, her hands shaking slightly with nervousness and excitement. Nathan's face went through a series of expressions, shock, fear, joy, and finally landed on pure happiness. He swept her up in his arms and spun her around, laughing. We are going to have a baby, he kept saying. We are going to be parents. Are you happy? Rebecca asked, even though she could see that he was. Happy does not begin to cover it, Nathan said. I thought I had lost my chance at family, and now I am getting a second chance with you. The pregnancy was not easy. Rebecca struggled with sickness in the early months and exhaustion throughout, but Nathan was endlessly patient and supportive, taking over all the heavy tasks around the cabin and making sure she rested. He brought her fresh fruit from town and hunted rabbits to make her the stew she craved. He rubbed her swollen feet in the evenings and held her when she cried from hormonal tears. I do not know what I would do without you, Rebecca told him one night as they lay in bed, his hand resting gently on her growing belly. Good thing you will never have to find out, Nathan said. I am not going anywhere. As summer returned to the Texas Hill Country, Rebecca's belly grew round and full. Nathan built a cradle from oak wood, sanding it smooth and carving small stars along the edges. Rebecca sewed tiny clothes and blankets, her seamstress skills coming in handy. They argued playfully about names. Nathan wanted strong, solid names. Rebecca wanted something with meaning. In late August, almost exactly a year after Rebecca had nearly died from the infected wound, their son was born. The labor was long and difficult, and Nathan nearly wore a hole in the porch from pacing. But when he finally heard the baby's cry and was allowed into the bedroom to meet his child, all the worry melted away. Rebecca lay exhausted but radiant in the bed, holding a tiny bundle. "Come meet your son," she said softly. Nathan approached almost reverently and looked down at the baby. He had a shock of dark hair and was red-faced from crying, but he was perfect, absolutely perfect. "What should we name him?" Nathan asked, his voice rough with emotion. Rebecca smiled. "I was thinking about what you told me about your sister Sarah. Maybe we could name him Samuel after my father, and his middle name could be Nathan after you." "Samuel Nathan Dalton," Nathan said, testing it out. I like it a lot." He carefully took the baby from Rebecca's arms and held him for the first time. The baby quieted, seeming to sense his father's strength and warmth. Nathan looked down at his son with wonder. "Hello, Samuel," he whispered. "Welcome to the world. I promise you, I will always be here for you. I will not make the same mistakes I made before. I will protect you and your mother with everything I have." Rebecca watched them together, her heart full to bursting. A year ago, she had been dying alone in a rough trading post. Now she had a husband she loved more than she thought possible and a beautiful baby boy. Life had a strange way of working out. The first year of Samuel's life was busy and chaotic and wonderful. Nathan proved to be a devoted father, taking to parenthood with the same determination he brought to everything else. He would get up in the night to walk with Samuel when the baby cried, pacing the cabin floor and singing rough lullabies in his deep voice. He built a bigger cabin so they would have more space, working through the spring and summer to add 2 more bedrooms and expand the main living area. Rebecca thrived as a mother, despite the exhaustion and challenges. She loved watching Nathan with their son, seeing the gentle way this strong, rugged mountain man cradled the tiny baby. She loved their life together, the quiet routine of their days, the warmth of their nights. When Samuel was 14 months old, Rebecca discovered she was pregnant again. This time the news was met with joy but also a bit of apprehension. Caring for one baby had been challenging. 2 would be even more so, but they would manage. They always did. Their daughter was born on a cool spring morning, arriving faster than Samuel had. Nathan barely had time to fetch the midwife from town before Rebecca was holding their new baby girl. She had auburn hair like her mother and her father's dark blue eyes. "Emma Rose Dalton," Rebecca said, having already decided on the name. Emma for Nathan's mother, Rose for her own. "What do you think?" Nathan kissed Rebecca's forehead, then gently touched his daughter's tiny hand. "I think she is perfect, just like her mother." Life settled into a new rhythm with 2 children. Samuel was a curious, energetic toddler who wanted to follow his father everywhere. Emma was a sweet, content baby who seemed to smile at everything. The cabin that Nathan had built was filled with the sounds of family children laughing, Rebecca singing while she cooked, Nathan's deep voice telling stories in the evening. They were not wealthy. Money was sometimes tight, especially with 2 growing children. But they had enough. Nathan worked hard, taking occasional guiding jobs in addition to his trapping and hunting. Rebecca took in sewing work from women in town when she could find the time. They grew a large garden and kept chickens. They made do and were happy doing it. Years passed in this way, each one bringing new challenges and joys. Samuel grew into a strong boy who idolized his father and wanted to learn everything about the wilderness. Emma grew into a sweet girl who loved helping her mother in the garden and learning to sew. 2 more children followed, another boy they named Thomas and a girl they named Catherine. The cabin expanded again. The property grew as Nathan carefully saved and bought adjoining land. Through it all, Nathan and Rebecca's love for each other only deepened. They still sat together on the porch, in the evenings when they could, talking about their day, their children, their dreams. They still looked at each other with the same warmth and affection they had felt in those early days. One evening, when they had been married for 15 years and their oldest children were teenagers, Rebecca and Nathan sat on the porch watching the sunset. The younger children were inside finishing their lessons. Samuel was helping Thomas with mathematics, and Emma was teaching Catherine to embroider. "Do you ever think about that day at the trading post?" Rebecca asked, leaning against Nathan's shoulder. They were both in their late 30s now, no longer young but still strong and healthy. "Sometimes," Nathan said. "Do you?" "Often. I was so scared. I truly thought I was going to die alone and forgotten. And then you walked through that door, and everything changed." Nathan wrapped his arm around her. "Best decision I ever made, riding out to help you. Best thing that ever happened to me, you riding through those nights to save my life. Rebecca turned to look at him. I mean it, Nathan. You did not just save my life that day. You gave me a life, a real life with love and family and purpose. I was just existing before, just going through the motions, but you made me truly live. Nathan kissed her forehead. You did the same for me. I was just hiding in those mountains, running from my grief and my guilt. You brought me back into the world. You gave me a reason to live again. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, listening to the sounds of their children inside and the evening sounds of the hill country around them. Do you have any regrets? Rebecca asked. Nathan considered the question seriously. I regret the years I wasted alone in the mountains after my family died. I regret not being there when they needed me. But everything that happened led me to you, so I cannot regret it too much. What about you? No regrets, Rebecca said firmly. That infected arm was the worst thing that ever happened to me. If I had not gotten hurt, I would have kept traveling west with that wagon train. I never would have met you. I would have ended up somewhere else, probably still alone, probably still just surviving instead of living. So no, I have no regrets at all. More years passed. Samuel grew into a young man and eventually married a girl from town, a sweet blonde named Alice. They built a cabin on the edge of Nathan and Rebecca's property, and Samuel worked alongside his father, managing the now substantial herd of cattle they had accumulated. Emma married a few years later, a kind young man named James, who worked as a carpenter. Thomas and Catherine were still young but growing fast. Nathan and Rebecca became grandparents, a role they embraced with joy. Samuel and Alice had 3 children in quick succession. Emma and James had twins. The family gatherings were loud and chaotic and filled with love. On the 20th anniversary of their wedding, Nathan surprised Rebecca with a trip back to the trading post where they had met. Henry had passed away several years earlier, and the place had changed hands, but it was still there. They stood outside the building, hand in hand, remembering. This is where it all started, Rebecca said. This little rough building in the middle of nowhere. Who would have thought? I knew the moment I saw you that you were special, Nathan said. Even with the fever and the infection, you had this light in your eyes. This determination to live. I could not let that light go out, and you did not. You rode through 2 nights to make sure of it. Rebecca smiled up at him. My hero, your husband, Nathan corrected. Your partner, your love. Hero makes me sound too good. You are that good, Rebecca insisted. You always have been. They rode back to their cabin as the sun set, casting golden light across the Texas landscape. 20 years of marriage, 4 children, 6 grandchildren and counting, a successful property. A life built from nothing but determination and love. That night, lying in bed with Nathan's arms around her, Rebecca thought about the scared 22-year-old woman she had been, lying in that trading post certain she was going to die. If someone had told her then that she would not only survive but would find the love of her life, build a beautiful family, and spend decades in happiness, she never would have believed it. But life had a way of surprising you. Sometimes in terrible ways, like a simple nail wound that turned into blood poisoning. And sometimes in wonderful ways, like a mountain man who rode through 2 nights to save a stranger's life and ended up finding his own salvation in the process. More years passed, quiet and peaceful. Nathan and Rebecca grew older, their hair turning gray, their bodies slowing down, but their love never diminished. If anything, it grew stronger with each passing year, tested by time and proven true. They watched their children raise their own children. They celebrated births and mourned deaths. They weathered droughts and harsh winters and good years and bad. Through it all, they had each other. On a warm summer evening when they were both in their late 50s, Nathan and Rebecca sat on the porch of the cabin he had built so many years ago. Their grandchildren were running around the yard, playing some elaborate game that involved much shouting and laughter. Samuel and Alice were there, and Emma and James with their twins. Thomas had recently married and brought his new wife to meet everyone. Catherine was visiting with her young man, and Rebecca suspected an engagement would be announced soon. Quite a legacy we have built, Nathan said, watching the chaos of family with contentment. Quite a life we have lived, Rebecca agreed. She took his hand, their fingers intertwining in a gesture as familiar as breathing after all these years. Do you remember what you said to me that first night after the surgery? When I first woke up? Nathan thought back. I said I was glad you made it. You said maybe you wanted to know me, Rebecca corrected. And I have spent every day since letting you know me and getting to know you, and I am still not tired of it, neither am I. Nathan said, He raised her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. I love you, Rebecca Dalton. I have loved you since the moment I decided to ride through the night to save you. I will love you until my last breath and beyond. I love you too, Rebecca said, tears gathering in her eyes. Happy tears, the kind that came from a heart too full to contain all the emotion. Thank you for saving me. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for giving me this beautiful life. They sat together in the fading light, surrounded by the evidence of their love, the family they had built, the life they had created. A mountain man and a seamstress, brought together by desperate circumstances and bound together by choice and love. The infection had spread fast up her arm all those years ago, threatening to take her life. But Nathan had ridden through the night to fetch the surgeon, and in doing so, he had saved more than just her life. He had saved himself too, brought himself back from the isolation and grief that had consumed him, and Rebecca, in turn, had given him a reason to stay in the world, a reason to build and grow and love again. They had saved each other, really, and in the process, they had built something beautiful. As the stars began to appear in the darkening sky, and their grandchildren's laughter rang through the evening air, Nathan and Rebecca sat together in perfect peace, knowing they had lived the kind of love story that people dreamed about but rarely found. A love that started with a desperate ride through darkness and grew into a lifetime of light and warmth and joy. A love that had been tested by time and circumstance and had emerged stronger for it. A love that would endure in the family they had built and the legacy they would leave behind, long after they were gone. But for now, they were here, together, exactly where they were meant to be. And that was more than enough. It was everything.